Perfect. This thing is so silly. I'm having a hard time even speaking. A guy, Brandon, sent me these heads. He's got an old Chevy truck with a worn out old 6-liter. Put in a cam, a fuel system, decent sized turbo, threw 20 pounds of boost at it, and here we are smoking M4s. Supercharged M4s at that. I've never actually taken apart a high horsepower stock LS before. Most of the stuff that I've worked on, it's been modified. Brandon, on the other hand, nope, we're gonna do this on a stock engine. While I'm not an advocate for doing that, I'm gonna be real curious about what we're gonna find here. See, I'm capable of not being a heathen. The extra funny part is I'm going to rebuild these heads and sell them online. They're going to end up on somebody's high mileage work truck. I think I'll leave out the fact that these things were on a truck making 1,000 horsepower. I don't think they need to know that. This is a spring kit from Howard's Cams. Titanium retainers. Typically, you're going to want to look on the underside of your used titanium retainers. Titanium doesn't last very long. When there's a valve train control issue, you'll see that the underside of the retainer got eaten away. Look on the top of the valve springs. Look for big radial shiny spots or signs that the springs have been spinning. You'll see this advertised as a platinum valve spring under any whatever brand. These are import valve springs. I've actually never seen a breakage on one of these, but it's certainly not one of my first choices. Kind of subtle, but you can see right here where my finger's pointing, the edge of the wire was starting to eat into the retainer just a little bit, but that isn't necessarily an indication of a valve train control issue. That looks like normal wear. Lastly, you'll look at the keepers. If you see big shiny spots worn onto the taper, if you see that the keeper internally is worn or it's deformed, that's going to be a huge sign. Also scary. That's a big indicator of a valve train control problem. All right, let's check these valves out. I'm excited for this. Wow. That was not running well before the boost, and the boost sure did not help. Look at that valve face. Look at those pits. I'm gonna have to replace these. Somebody with this work truck is gonna end up with a really nice pair of heads. Intake valves now. Valve stems look good. Really hard to show this on camera, but there's actually a cup worn into the valve face. Interesting. Intake valves are no good. Whoa. I'll show you the intake and the exhaust seats, but these look bad. These heads lived a really hard life. Amazing. And if it didn't blow the head gasket, actually, no. It didn't blow the head gasket. It broke a piston. I'm amazed at how well these are holding up. Believe me, the parts are trashed, but they look pretty good considering that they were never designed for a 1,000 horsepower application. Whoa. Okay, that's worn out enough. I'm going to be able to show you exactly what I'm seeing here. We'll put it up in my valve grinder. That's going to be hilarious. I'm starting to get a little bored. I was expecting some real carnage, not just tremendous wear. This is the cylinder that broke the piston. Nothing exciting there. Good bit of aluminum transfer. Let's check out the seats. And actually, I think the guides are actually okay on this. Wow. The guides aren't even smoked. For a used pair of heads, that's highly acceptable. That one's a little worn, but nothing I wouldn't expect out of a high mileage engine. I bet you if I went to machine these seats, they'd be impossible to cut. What kind of exhaust temperatures are you seeing? All of it. If you look in between the valve seats, you'll see little tiny cracks. All LS heads do that. That's normal. There's no water there. It's really not a big deal. Unfortunately, that's about as bad as it gets. This is a really nice looking pair of heads. Look at that sticky schmoo. These things got hot. Wow. All right, on to the valve grinder. That big cup in the face is an indication that the valve was not only overheating, but the valve train was getting out of control. I probably would up the spring pressure if somebody told me that they wanted to turbocharge their stock LS. Here we are on the valve grinder. It's a Quickway VC from 1966. I recently restored it and did a few upgrades. It's really unusual to see someone using one of these. If I didn't do the upgrades, this machine would be really irrelevant. Literally the only things that I haven't touched on this were the motors. And you can see I'm only grinding on the backside here. In a normal situation, the grinder would have hit all the way across on the valve face, except we've got to keep going. I accidentally turned the feed just a little too aggressively, and we're still not cleaned up. Look at that cup. In fact, I can feel it with my finger. That's amazing. Try to stop early enough. You can see that the valve face was starting to clean up. We've just got a little sliver of that original cup left over. I'm gonna go ahead and grind this the same way I would grind anything else. Wipe some of that oil off. Wow. Amazing. The valve looks pretty good, except it's junk. LS intake valves are pretty thin to begin with, and who knows how much I just ground out of this. Well, that's it. All I wanted to do was steal these springs off of these heads. I sold this guy a set of LS3 heads I had sitting on the shelf. So let's see if that truck can make maybe 1,200 horsepower this time around.